What I'm going to do here is really share with you our experience with the Zurich brand. And that's a brand that obviously, as you've heard, has started way back, way before I even started, or the people I've been working with, the people in our different businesses we've been working with. It started way before that. That's an old lady, but at the same time, it's a lady that was requiring also to broaden its perspective, and you will see become also more customer-centric and differentiate itself. And that's what I'm going to talk about. And why differentiation? Because that's an industry that is notoriously known for being very undifferentiated. If you think of insurance brands, I think I know the ones in the UK, for example, that would come top of mind. If I would ask you, how are they different from, for example, how is Churchill different from, let's say, Aviva? Well, you may come back with some differentiation or different topics, but I think that's going to be difficult. And what we find out is that this is a category, and I'll put a little bit more facts behind that, where the differentiation is very difficult. Now, we feel that we have found a way, but in saying this, I'm not going, and I may disappoint you, but I'm not going to tell you, yes, we've cracked it, we know how to do it, we're the best. I think that would be very arrogant. We found an interesting way, and it is really what I want to share with you. But at the same time, and this would be my first message to you, this is really about work in progress. So we haven't cracked the magic recipe. There is still a lot of work to do. Work in progress, but we are off a good start, and this is why I was happy to find this picture of the castle of the Sleeping Beauty in Disneyland. I think it's even Walt Disney if you can distinguish the silhouette here, that you can see just before this castle. And we are building something that could become a landmark, at least for our internal employees. That's a good start. The interesting story about this castle in Disneyland is the first 2 years, the castle was empty, and I was not quite sure what they would do with it. And Walt Disney was apparently pushing his people to say, okay, you've got to integrate it fully into the park. And finally, they opened it, and it became what it is now. And I would not say we are in the same situation, but a little bit. We have created something that we feel has strong potential. There are still a lot of questions internal on how we're going to leverage it, but we are on something that we feel is really promising. And that thing which I'm going to talk about, it's not the only thing I will talk about, but it's what we call also Zurich Help Point. That is at the heart of our approach, especially from an internal point of view. So, about Zurich, I think you've heard most about it. The one thing I would add, which is important to keep in mind, is that this is one of the most global insurance companies, in the sense, if you compare the business we do abroad versus the business we do in our home market in Switzerland, which is obviously a great country, beautiful country, but a small country. It was clearly a big incentive for the company to really go and get business outside. So we are one of the most global company in terms of the percentage of the business abroad. Our mission, I just want to mention it because that's really important, is really to help our customers to understand and protect themselves from risk. So as you can see, we are really about insurance. I know now it's back in fashion to say we're just a good old boring insurance company. A few years ago, before the big crisis in 2008, there were a lot of pushback on, why aren't you guys into more sexy, interesting, trendy financial services? And the answer was always consistently, no, we're just about good old boring insurance. And I can tell you that we are very happy to be in that place. And we've always been very happy to be in this place. 60,000 employees, I think we've been mentioning this. We are present in more than 170 countries. That tell you how global we are. And we want to become the best global insurer, measured by our shareholders, customers, and employees. Here again, it's worth mentioning, even it may sound like something you've heard before, best is different from number one. We don't say we want to be number one. Being the best means we want to, for example, bring the best return on equity to our shareholders. And if you look at our customers, we want to be the preferred insurer, and we're measuring this through a specific customer satisfaction metrics. And in the same way, we want to become the employer of choice in the area of insurance. So we have great ambition, we are building off a great brand, and we have great ambition for this brand, obviously. Now, if we look at the category or the world of insurance where we operate, I'm afraid the picture is slightly more challenging, and this is where we have to play. The two graphics you're looking at here, don't need to go too much into the detail of the numbers, even if you cannot see this from the back. What is important to pick up here is two things. First of all, on the left, These are questions we asked to about 7,000 customers that we interviewed into 8 countries, and that was back in 2007, but I can tell you that I'm ready to bet that this has not changed significantly. And this is a top box, i.e., what is the percentage of people who strongly agree when they are being said, your insurer understands you, your insurer offers easy claims process, your insurer is proactive, your insurer is trustworthy. And if you look at the numbers, bear in mind that on the right it's 50%, it's not 100%. So if you had a 100% scale, it would look really small. It's about between 10 and 15% of customers who strongly agree with this, which means that there is a huge amount of mistrust and disappointment in this category. And this is not specific to one country, it's not specific to one particular segment. That's more or less true across the board. Whether you are an individual, you're a mid-sized company, in many cases, maybe slightly different on the side of the bigger companies where the relationship is more intimate, but overall that's a truth, that's a fact about this category. And we are no better than the others here. So I'm not here to say, hey, that's true for the rest, but we are much better. That's what we have to face. The other one, which is on the right, is just the same thing. You have the different attributes at the bottom and just trying to rank different brands according to these different attributes. And basically, they're all the same. There is no difference. Here we plotted, I think it's AXA and Allianz. You could plot other brands. Most of them will have same profile, which is basically flat, and no difference. So clearly that's where we operate. Low level of trust, very, very low brand differentiation. To make it a little bit more difficult for us, there is also in that space, in that category, very, very little room for a differentiated positioning. Starting with the fact that this category is over-fragmented, you go into different markets, you will see different set of competitors. And basically what is really interesting is that in all the markets, the local historic leader is a leading brand. You go in Germany, Allianz is number one. You go in France, AXA is number one. In all the markets, the brand that appeared first, that has been the historical leader, is the leader by far, and is the one that clearly almost owns the generic attributes of the category. And the brand situations are very entrenched. It's sometimes almost, I would not say desperating, but it's difficult to look at brand tracking, how our awareness, our consideration evolves. And basically, it always says the same thing month after month after month. You may see some moves, but they are very, very limited. Other things which make this category challenging, there are very few barriers to new products entry. So you could think, hey, let's develop a very innovative new service, and there are. So that's, contrary to what people may think, this is not a conservative industry. There are really a lot of innovative, interesting services. Think, for example, of applications that have been developed for the iPhone, where you can basically, make your claims directly from your iPhone, taking a picture and so on. The first one who did that, I think probably AXA was ahead of the crowd, but now everyone more or less is providing this. There are very, very little barriers to entry. It's not like in a technology industry where you can protect yourself with patents and so on. That does not exist here. So the minute you have something that is interesting and appealing, you can bet that 3 months later, it will be out there with your competitors. Also, low purchase frequency. Think of, you buy insurance maximum once a year. Sometimes you just renew your contract, so it's not a real purchase decision. Limited opportunities to engage with consumers. The only times you would really engage with your insurance is when you have to file a claim and hoping that you'll get everything you want to get out of it. And that's also not, although it's a moment of truth for an insurance company and for the consumer, it's also not one contact that we want to, that we're eagerly looking for, certainly not. And the last thing, but also probably the most important, is the level of customer expectations is very, very low. When we spoke to these customers, I was talking about about 7,000 of them, what we heard back loud and clear was get the basic right. And that was clearly a big sort of awakening for us to realize that this is where we are. And also keep in mind that insurance is one of the industry where the understanding, the awareness of the consumer and the role of marketing is progressively ramping up. It's probably, I don't know whether it's the last one, but it's probably late versus even the banking industry. And it's obviously compared to a consumer goods company miles away from where they are today. But clearly that was an awakening at the time. And that was clearly a call to action for all of us inside Zurich. So as a follow-up or concomitant to this, and when those results came out, Basically, Zurich take a very, very core decision that was clearly driven from the very top of the company, and I want to make clear that this is not a marketing decision or a marketing strategy. What you're looking at is the pillars from the Zurich strategy, and there are things you go on our website and you will see more detail on that. What is important here is really to see that what we call customer centricity is really at the core of it. Customer centricity, I think we could go on for hours to explain, to detail, to discuss it. The important thing to keep in mind, and this is really about putting the customers at the center of everything we do. Of course, at the center of what the people who are facing customers will do. Of course, our agents, our claim agents, also people, our relationship leaders who work with large customers. Of course, it's critical for them, but as well for people who work in more back office type of jobs. It was critical to make everyone understand that it was a different time and we really had to put the customer at the center of everything we were doing. And this is why that decision was made in 2007 to evolve the company strategy. Before that, you had the three pillars around, so like profitable growth, people management, etc. Customer centricity was not in there. It became really central and core to everything we do. And that was a very, very important move for all of us, and this is really what has triggered where the brand is today. There was a big consensus around this. We were very proud of having identified this challenge and thinking that we were ahead of the crowd. Actually, what happened in the following probably year, 18 months afterwards, is everyone went there. So you look at, and I'm just using the advertising, but again, it's not just an advertising gimmick, it's deeper than this. I think AXA were the first ones to came right afterwards with their whole campaign around redefining standard. You go to their website, they explain to you, this industry has failed, has not really delivered to its promise, we have to stand up, we have to redefine our standards. Different way to say it, but they're basically saying the same things. You look at Ergo, which is, Ergo is a German insurer. In fact, it's a merger of different local insurance companies. What do they say? I want to be insured, not unsettled. And their whole campaign is all about customers talking, for example, their TV, the customer talking face to camera and saying, hey, I don't want to read little words at the bottom of my contract and find out that I'm not covered. You had to be clear, transparent with me. So it's all a request and a call to the agencies, to the insurance to really make things simple, transparent, and trustable for them. Other examples, obviously you've seen Aviva here, where they are celebrating their clients, putting their clients at the core of their campaign. You are the big picture. Allianz just came out with a new campaign at the back end of 2010, talking about 19 million clients. This is their German campaign, One Allianz, and this is a campaign you're going to see progressively sort of moving around. So clearly, a realization that we had to become customer-centric was not just Zurich, it was clearly an industry realization, and everyone has been moving in that space. So if I go back to the title of my presentation, differentiation, no, this is not going to differentiate ourselves. It's a mandate to be customer-centric, it's not going to differentiate ourselves, at least just stating that we're going to be customer-centric. So what is it that we did else to try to move the ball a little bit forward? Very interestingly, what we did is we really started from the inside, from the internal aspect. And I think in the insurance industry and probably in services industry, you really have to look at things from inside and outside, because what you sell is basically at the end what your people are willing and able and trained and motivated to deliver. And I thought it was interesting to look at this quote from Simon, who was one of the CMO from Coke. Before you can even think of selling your brand to consumers, you have to sell it to your employees. That's interesting. I think at Zurich we probably even went slightly beyond this, in the sense, and this is what you see here with Zurich Hellpoint, what we did is we in fact branded our internal commitment, and we called it Zurich Hellpoint. And the reason why we called it Zurich Hellpoint is because there were already some properties that were called Zurich Hellpoint within different places of Zurich. Rather than coming with something brand new, we used that, we leveraged it, and we said, okay, everything we do, all the many ways we deliver what customers want when it matters, which is our brand promise, all the many ways we deliver that, we're going to call this Zurich Hellpoint. And we are all, in the company, going to become Zurich Hellpoint. This is our role. And clearly that was embodying our commitment to value our customers, to treat them as individuals. And the first job was really, I was talking about advertising, and you may have seen the Zurich advertising. Think of it at the top of the iceberg. The biggest job and a huge amount of work was really put behind employee engagement, and it's clearly going on, so it's a never-ending journey. I won't go through all the details here, but it says two things. First, there was a process which is symbolized by this pyramid internally to really cascade the message, starting from what we call the GEC, which is our Global Executive Committee, our top 10 leaders across the world, then really cascading down to all the different levels, making sure that it would reach all the grassroots and every employee across the world, as well as a lot of activities. Some were clearly local, some were driven from the top. You may see that we had our CEO at the time did a roadshow, went into a lot of countries, used YouTube, where he was posting his messages saying, hey, I'm in China today, this is what I'm finding out, it's exciting, you guys are thinking the same way. Was creating a lot of attraction toward the whole concept of customer centricity and help point. Another one which is worth talking about is also on the left here, you've got the customer celebration months, when over a month and across most entities of Zurich across the world, and that was true in Hong Kong, that was true in Argentina, that was true in Switzerland, that was true in the UK, we went out and celebrated our customers. We invited some of them. Some people went to agency. There were days where we had to place calls to our customers and so on, and that worked tremendously well. So all of that effort has really created a very, very high, not just awareness, but clearly commitment behind the Zurich Help Point, and it's been really acting as a rallying cry. Now, beside this, what we've been doing is, or on top of that, we've been then taking the Help Point concept and we've decided to project it to the outside. So we could have said, okay, Help Point is internal, let's have our external campaign and it's different. And very often it happens this way. We said, no, we're going to project Help Point to the outside world. And we've been developing several campaigns. That's the second one. I'm not sure whether all these ads are running in the UK, but I will just give you a quick sample. So that's car advertising, that's our home advertising. The whole idea is to say, in this campaign, we understand, for example, how important your home is for you. We've developed Zurich Help Point precisely because we understand that, because we understand you as customers. And, for example, we provide home insurance that protects the place you cherish most. That's home. That's still another one for home. I will go reasonably quickly. That's about our life insurance and specifically focusing on pension, talking about how we can help you realize the retirement of your dreams, if this is the kind of thing you like. Or if you like a better or more quiet retirement, you can also fancy that. This one is more focused on protection. We help you protect your loved ones, whatever would happen for you. And of course, when there is a newborn at home, you also need to think differently, and we can also help you there in terms of how you're going to protect your family. So all of that is just one part of the campaign. Obviously, I'm not here to share this with you. You can see it. You've probably seen it already. There's TV, digital, etc. What was important in there is that we decided and we make a conscious choice to take Help Point and drive it outside. And in doing that, what is really interesting is that it puts the organization in tension, because we make commitments internal and then we say, well, these commitments, we're going to communicate them outside. I remember at the beginning of the campaign, there were a lot of questions when we were doing internal presentation about this campaign. Well, are you sure we can say that? Are we going to deliver? Are we not a little bit too ambitious? And the answer was, well, first of all, we're not mad. We're not going to promise anything specific that we cannot deliver. So everything that is in there is available. What was interesting is we went through a process of selecting the most interesting elements, like services, like products that were available that we could really single out and push as proof point of our commitment. But clearly the attitude was slightly beyond that, and saying this is a company that wants to stand up and really deliver when it matters for its customer. And it's put the organization a little bit in tension, and it's really enabled the organization to move forward. And from that point of view, it's been very, very interesting. If we look at some results to tell you that it's working, and I won't go through all the details, but what we see, and these are numbers, I took numbers from 2009, I didn't want to go into too recent numbers, but even after a year, what we were seeing is significant progress, and this is coming from our tracking research, around two dimensions, which is delivers when it matters, and also meets customer needs, which is clearly at the core of our strategy. So we're seeing things moving forward. Does it mean it's enough? No. Does it mean that we are above other brands? No. So that's why I'm saying building this is good, but does it still differentiate us? Not enough. And that's really why I'm saying, this is work in progress. This is not, we found it, we know how to crack it, we're the best. It's not true. I hope it is, but I'm not sure. And two other achievements which we are reasonably proud of is, if we look at the way our brand value has been evolving, we've made significant progress here as well. In 2009, Brand Z, which is the Millwall brand for you who are familiar with this, the Millwall brand tool to evaluate brands, we grew in 2009 17% at a time where most brands were going down, and we moved in the insurance sector from 8th to 4th, which was clearly a very, very significant achievement. And we had the second highest brand value growth. And 2010, Interbrand, for the first time, we entered the top 100 global brands, which we are very proud of. I think we were in 94. Now, of course, our challenge is to move higher, but we are very proud of this. And we are now, in fact, the third insurance brand behind AXA and Allianz. So these are very significant progress that we have done behind this strategy. Now, I don't want to mislead you. It's not just an ad campaign or a marketing strategy that's been achieving that. It's an entire company, it's a commitment of people. So it's important to say that. But overall, we are very happy with that. Now, are we there? And I'm getting close to conclusion here. I would still use the metaphor of the castle. It is still work in progress. We haven't yet completely cracked it. What we feel is that Zurich HealthPoint is, and what we assess and what we're getting back from our internal people is that it's become an internal landmark. It's clearly understood. It's driving the energy. It's creating the momentum. We are still building the asset a little bit like this castle here. We are bringing new customer-centric services, proposition, new features. I was talking about, for example, the application on the iPhone. We've just developed a new one that is really cool, that is really going to work really well. That's part of our HealthPoint proposition. Still, the external potential of HealthPoint can be and could be unlocked further. We also know that sometimes our customers are not completely clear about what HealthPoint means, and we need to probably be even clearer on what it is and what it delivers. But the last thing also that we've also realized recently after about 2 to 3 years is that differentiation will take more than this. So this is why I was saying it's work in progress. HealthPoint has been a key step moving forward. We need more, and I think there's going to be a chapter 2 to this story, which we're really looking forward. So, in conclusion, did we find the recipe to challenge the status quo? I would say we are on the right direction. I don't think we've really found it yet, but we are very close to it. But I would say 6 points as takeaway. The first one is customer centricity in the insurance industry. It's a must. There is absolutely no question about it. If you're not there, you'll be out of business in the next 5 to 10 years. It's a must, but it will not differentiate. The strategic intent is the right one, but it's not what's going to differentiate us. If you look at new products, new services, new features, again, we have to do it. That's a mandate. If we don't do it, again, we'll be out of business in the next 5 to 10 years. Will it differentiate us? No, because anything that is working will be copied by our competitors. And by the way, it's not just competitors copying us. We copy our competitors. We all do the same thing, right? But it will be copied. It will be out there. So you won't differentiate through new products, new services, new features. It doesn't mean that it's not worth doing it. It doesn't mean that it's not worth us, all of us in Zurich, working together to make sure that our levels of customer satisfaction increase and that we have the best ones. And this is really what we aim for. And I was talking about becoming the best insurance company. We have to do that, but it's not going to be perceived externally as very much differentiating, which is why in this context we go back to I would say the good old fundamentals of branding. And branding is not just that, but it's also creating or increasing a perception of difference where there is very little to differentiate. And the whole idea also, or the whole approach of Zurich HealthPoint is also around this, which is, at the end of the day, what we want to deliver is not that different from what our competitors want to deliver. We want to do it better than them, but that's about the same thing that we want to do. What we do is we've created this kind of brands, which we call Zurich HealthPoint, and that helps us differentiate from that point of view. The other thing that's really important is, in this industry, the articulation between internal and external is absolutely critical. And I would say the success we've had so far, I was saying it's not just a marketing initiative. Far from that. It's clearly the results of people internally being mobilized and ready to deliver, as well as some external campaigns that have been more or less clever to deliver that to the outside. But that's really the combination of that. Another point that is interesting when we look back with the insights is we decided to really move ahead with HealthPoint in particular and with the whole campaign and the whole approach of customer century without having figured it all out. And we could have said, hey, let's figure out the whole strategy, let's test, let's research, let's do a lot of different things. No, we decided to go ahead because The customer centricity mandate was too important for us. And we are figuring it out along the way, a little bit like, I'm going back to the analogy of the castle, but this castle was built, was put in the middle of the park, and then they had to figure out, okay, now what's the best way to leverage this? This is where we are right now. And the last thing, which I think makes it even more exciting, we know that at the end of the journey, we have to almost invent chapter 2, which is how now do we leverage this into something that hopefully is going to set Zurich aside and help us meet our goal, which is we want to be perceived as the best insurance company.